This video is called You Would Be a Terrible Leader by CJP Gray. I don't agree with him. I will be an amazing leader. Let's see why I would suck.
Do you want to rule? Do you see the problems in your country and know how to fix them?
Yep.
If only you had the power to do so.
Yeah.
Well,
yes. All right. So automatically, yes, I do. I do feel that way. So maybe that's narcissism.
you come to the right place. But before we begin this lesson in political power, ask yourself, why don't rulers see as clearly as you, instead acting in such selfish, self-destructive, short-sighted ways? Are they stupid? These most
Thanos did nothing wrong. I'll go one farther. Thanos did the right thing. Thanos saved the universe, and the quote-unquote heroes went and fucking ruined all of his amazing work.
powerful people in the world, or is it...
And you can't even claim that Thanos was hateful, because it's not like he went, all people of this group are dead, or like all of this or that. He just went, half of everybody. Half of fucking everybody's dead as fuck, and I am here for it.
something else?
Damn, 70 stream streak, hell yeah.
The throne looks omnipotent from afar, but it is not as it seems. Take the throne to act, and the throne...
I just want anybody who watches me to understand that I do lower my power level by quite a bit on my actual beliefs because I'm on Twitch and I'm trying to do all that stuff. But I probably have a lot more extreme values than most people would assume by talking to me.
upon you. Accept that, or turn back now before we discuss the rules for rulers. No matter how bright the rays of any Sun King, no man rules alone. A king can't...
So, my name, stands for the red-haired king, son of fire. So, I don't know. That's just a weird little bit of lore for you.
Roads alone can't enforce laws alone, can't defend the nation or himself alone. The power of a king is not to act, but to get others to act on his behalf, using the treasure in his vaults. A king needs an army and someone to run it, treasure and someone to collect it, law and someone to enforce it. The individuals needed to make the necessary things happen are the king's keys to power. All the changes you wish to make are but thoughts in your head if the keys will not follow your commands.
Well, this just sounds like you need to be more of a despot. Alright, so here's my actual beliefs. I think that the only truly good way to run a country can only last for a maximum of 70 years, because the only way you can have a truly great nation is to have a benevolent dictator. Someone who has complete control over the entire country, but is actually a good person. It's so hard to find. You will rarely find those in history. There's like 3 of them in all of history. But that's the only way that you could actually run a perfect nation. Of course, then you have what happens after he dies, you know? And the next guy is never going to be as good as him, and most likely will be way, way, way worse, because people will just trust him automatically because they've had such a great leader for so long.
Dictatorship, where might makes right, the number of keys to power is small.
It'll never work. It'll never work long term. That would never work long term. That's the issue with it. It would only work for, 50 to 70 years, as long as a person could live. As soon as that one guy is dead, it's over.
Perhaps only a dozen generals, bureaucrats, and regional leaders.
You don't think it would work short term? Fair enough. I don't know. I feel like if someone was truly a great person, and I mean this like realistically, like not like, oh, they're performative or anything, but if someone was truly a great person and had full control over a nation, I think that they could they could enact really good change and make a nation really good to live in. But like I said, I only think that would last for as long as it does. People are used to live a certain way. If you change that will hit. That's a good ass point, Ogram, actually. Doesn't matter if the change is good. That's so true. Most people do fear change. That is true. And the thing is, like, the reason people fear change, I think of this George Carlin quote all the time, and it's, think about how dumb the average person you meet is, and then realize that average is the halfway mark.
Sway them to your side, and the power to rule is yours. But never forget, displease them and they will replace you. Now, all countries lie on a spectrum from those where the ruler needs.
And you know what, Algrim? I can solidify your point too. So, by all accounts, if you were a Roman, Julius Caesar was one of your greatest leaders of all time. He truly was a benevolent dictator if you were Roman. Now, not necessarily if you were anybody else, but that's not the point. If you were Roman, he was a benevolent dictator. And his boys stabbed him to death because of all the changes he was enacting. So, you know, et tu, Brute, you know what I mean? Like, if you let people stay in their own mud, that's fine. You know, I do see a lot of people who would prefer to be in their own mud than to be outside of the pit, because it's scary.
Few key supporters to those where the ruler needs many. This foundation of power is why countries are different. Yet many keys or few, the rules are the same. First, get the key supporters on your side.
True.
With them, you have the power to act. You have everything.
Well, so the real key to being a great leader starts before any of this, actually, in my opinion. The real key to really running a country the way you see fit is through slow generational change, and by the time you've taken power, the ideals of the nation are the same ideals that you have. Or, like Ogrim just said, money. Yeah.
Without them, you have nothing. Now, in order to keep those keys to power, you must second...
It's like that Rick and Morty quote where he's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. For money.
Control the treasure. You must make sure your treasure is raised and distributed to you for all your hard work and to the keys needed to keep your position. This is your true work as a ruler, figuring out how best to raise and distribute resources so
Wow, Algrim, you called it.
as not to topple the house of cards upon which your throne sits. Now you, aspiring benevolent dictator, may want to help
He said it.
your citizens, but your control of the treasure is what attracts rivals. So you must keep those keys loyal. But there's only so much treasure in your vaults.
Plus, here's the problem with using money to keep your keys loyal. So in ancient Rome, there was this group of people called the Praetorian Guard. The Praetorian Guard were the guardians of the emperor himself. They were his personal army, basically, his own personal military force that would protect him. The issue is that every time an emperor would leave power, the new emperor would give these Praetorian Guards a giant bonus to try to keep them loyal. And then about every 5 to 10 years, these Praetorian Guards would kill their emperor so that the next emperor would come in and give them another bonus so that they remain loyal. And there's a period of 100 years where there was like 40 different emperors because the Praetorian Guard kept murdering them over and over and over again. If you don't have money, just make more. Work, yeah.
So much wealth your kingdom produces. So beware. Every bit of treasure spent on citizens is treasure not spent on loyalty. Thus, doing the right thing, spending the wealth of the nation on the citizens of the nation, hands a tool of power acquisition to your rivals. Treasure poured into roads and universities and hospitals is treasure a rival can promise to key supporters if only they switch sides.
Real.
Benevolent dictators can spend their...
Well, here's the thing about a quote-unquote benevolent dictator, too, is you can't forget the second part of that word. You have to be partly despotic. Like, if you start to see these signs of disloyalty as a benevolent dictator, quote-unquote, you have to murk them. You have to take them out right away. You don't give them a chance to start, oh, well, maybe we'll be nice and let them go around and, do their thing. Nah. You gotta take them out right there, right then. That's the way. Make an example out of him. Do some fucking Vlad the Impaler shit. Vlad the Impaler was completely surrounded and outnumbered. He was totally fucked. Vlad the Impaler would have never ever been able to hold off the army that was coming to his doorstep. So what he did is he fucking started piking people. Started stabbing them through and putting them up. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's crazy awesome. I love that. Like, it's brutal and terrible, but awesome. Like...
And his name is John C.
What up?
Give me back that filet fish. Oh. Give me that fish. Oh. Give me back that filet fish. What if
What a blast.
Up on this wall. If it were you in that sandwich, you
wouldn't be laughing at all.
So give me back that lettuce. Give me that lettuce.
What up, Harmony? How's it going? We're just watching a video about why I would be a terrible leader. And the more I watch it, the more I realize he's probably right.
Take on the citizens, but the keys must get their rewards, for even if you have gathered the most loyal, angelic supporters, they have the same problem as you, just one level down. Being a key to power is a position of power. They too must watch out for rivals from below or above. Thus, the treasure they get must also be spent to maintain their position. The loyal and dim may stay by your side no matter what, but smart key supporters will always watch the balance of power, ready.
Yugoslavia? I don't know anything about Yugoslavia, to be honest. I don't know. I would give an example right now, but I am still trying to keep my power level down a little bit, but I think that there is one modern example of this that is it's a pretty good example. Now he's a brutal dictator and he will come out and say it outright. But there is one dictator that has made life for all the people in his country a lot better. Besides for the criminals, who obviously are having the worst times of their lives. I'll just say it. El Salvador. The people in that nation, Bukele or whatever, I think that's where I'm thinking of. The people who live there, the citizens, are having a way better life now than they ever did. And it's brutal, and it's a dictatorship, but the average citizen is having a great time. Tito was a dictator, but he was a half-decent job. Kind of depends on who you ask as a Croatian. He was, yeah. Fair enough.
To change allegiance if you look to be the loser in a shifting web of alliances. In countries where the keys are few, the rewards are great, and when violence rules, the most ruthless are attracted, and angels that build good works will lose to devils that don't. So
yeah, guys, by the way, I deleted my rant. I went on for an hour and a half ranting into a camera about how much I hated the community of that game, and I went back and watched it, and I was like, wow, this just really comes off as me just being a salty little bitch, so I deleted it.
All the loyalty you can, because loyalty in dictatorial organizations of all kinds is everything, for the ruler anyway. Thus,
the worst part is, I know I'm pausing all the time, you guys know how it is. Worst part is that when I was recording the video, I for sure was like, oh my god, this is going to be the greatest thing of all time. I'm making all the best points. There's no way someone could disagree with me. And then as soon as I start watching it back, I'm like 1 minute in, because now I'm not heated anymore, yelling about it. And I'm like, wow, this is the worst thing ever. This is so cringe.
The dictatorship exposed. A king who needs his court to raise the treasure to keep the court loyal and keep raising the treasure. This is the self-sustaining core of power. All outside is secondary. Now, a king with many key supporters has real problems. Not just their expense, but also their competing needs and rivalries are difficult to balance. The more complicated the social and financial web between
Cringe maybe, but the facts were wrong? No, the facts were definitely correct. They were. I think I need to sit down and type this one out so that I don't, just start being like, man, fuck this guy, fuck this, you know, because that's how it felt at the end of the day. So I just need to sit down and write out my rant before I do it.
Them all, the more able a rival is to sway a critical mass. The more key supporters a ruler has on average, the shorter their reign. Which brings us to the third rule for rulers.
And
minimize.
I am gonna post this probably to YouTube, so I'll say what it is out loud. The community for Movie Battles 2, the Star Wars Jedi Academy mod, is the worst community of all time. The devs are clueless, but the mod is the funnest thing I've ever played. So, there we go. There's my little mini rant of that's going in. So,
key supporters. If a key in your court becomes unnecessary, his skills no longer required, you must kick him out. After a successful coup, the new dictator will...
See, he already made a mistake. So this right here, let's see what he says here.
You must kick him out.
No. No, 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 no. That's a horrible mistake as a dictator. All right, all right, as a dictator, hypothetically speaking, if you were a dictator and this person is no longer useful, if you kick them out, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna find a way to become your rival and become useful to your enemies. This is horrible. The only way to solve this as a dictator is to kill that guy. That's the only way. You don't kick him out. You either pay him or you kill him. Stalin. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh man.
Out.
Jesus.
After a successful coup, the new dictator will purge some of those who helped him come to power while working with the underlings of the previous dictator, which from the outside seems a terrible idea. Why abandon your fellow revolutionaries? Are the old dictator's supporters not a danger? But the keys necessary to gain power are not the same as those needed to keep it. Having someone on the
So this is the problem that a lot of champagne socialists will find if they ever achieve their goals, such as, perfect example, Hassan Piker. They will be useful to help people gain power, but they will never, if that does happen, if they do get their communist regime to take power, they will not be the people with the key. They will have been a useful idiot that is cast aside the second that the people who wanted him to do the shit that don't need him to do the shit anymore. Yeah, the moment the revolution succeeds is the moment that the revolutionaries are no longer needed. Yeah, exactly, because they actually want great change, but the actual leaders, most of the time, they're just for power. We've seen this countless times when a dictator takes power and then goes around and kills all his fellow revolutionaries within the next 10 years. The modern heroes now that don't finish the job, they want to save the person now. I hate that trope. I really, really hate the trope of, well, if we kill the bad guy, we're just like him. It's like, no, you're not, because this guy just fucking blew up a building and killed 20,000 people on the side. You're not just like him if you take him out. That's not the same. You export the revolutionaries overseas to your neighbors. That's smart. That's what you do with them. Yeah, killed half the city, but if we kill him, we're just like him. We're so bad. It's like, no, you killed a monster. You saved the world. What are you talking about? We can save him. You know, I think the problem is too many people watch Dragon Ball Z and now everybody thinks that every bad guy is Vegeta. Jay, go to Cuba for a side mission. Oh my god, that's a perfect example.
payroll who was vital in the past but useless now is the same as spending money on the citizens. Treasure wasted on the irrelevant. And by definition, a dictator that pulls off a coup has promised greater treasure to those switching sides.
Yep.
The size of the vault has not changed, so the treasure must be split among fewer. A dictator that sways the right keys takes control.
No, that is true. Either way, you have to keep funding them. That is true. So you have to remove the amount of keys. You have to take it down to a smaller number. Not too small to where if they decide they don't like you anymore, they can do something. Here's another issue, though. It's like with King Henry, I think it was the 7th. I can't remember which King Henry. There were so many King Henrys, you guys. I'm sorry, but there was like fucking a million of them. It's bullshit. Get another name, Europe. England, I'm sorry. Harmony, I'm sorry. But get some more names. Jesus Christ, dude. But King Henry the whatever, you know, he was his mom's favorite kid, and then his brother died, so then he was just thrust into power, and he tried to get an annulment from his wife, and that was the first time in his entire life that a single person had told him no. So you know what he did? He threw a giant fucking tantrum and basically went to war. Like, you know, that's the problem, is that people in power in a society that needs deep change are usually more like King Henry and less like King Arthur, you know? And then he escape and destroy another city and come to bite the hero in the ass. He kills his mother's hero. Yeah. His sister, and again, yeah. You're not worth my wrath. Yeah, exactly. It's like, what the fuck? Like, come on, guys. We just kill the bad guy. Just kill the fucking bad guy. Yeah, UK, use some name random generator. Henry the 69th of Cocksuckington.
Control of the treasure, cuts unnecessary spending, kills unnecessary keys, will have a long and successful career.
Holy
Seeing
shit.
the structure unveiled, you might be excited to get started and control a country.
No, you know what does fuck me up about that too, though? Is that King Henry he almost didn't exist. We almost had literal King Arthur. We almost had the actual King Arthur, who was like, historically like a pretty cool dude, who was on the battlefield, but also like kind of righteous and reserved in a way. He wasn't his mother's favorite child. He wasn't raised on the golden teat, you know. He was actually out there doing shit, and then he died. And then he fucking died. And then we got the other guy.
The benefit of you and your cronies.
We
Or
almost had the once and future king.
you might be exhausted, wishing to do good, but seeing the structural difficulties. Now turn to democracy for salvation. So let us discuss rulers as representatives.
Okay.
You again might have grand dreams of the utopia you wish to build, but no man rules alone, and never more so than in democracy. Presidents and prime ministers
We're not talking about democracy here. We're talking about dictatorship. He even said at the beginning, dictatorship. I don't know what he's talking about democracy for.
must negotiate with their senates and parliaments and vice versa, and they all have their own key supporters to manage. In a well-designed democracy, power is fractured among many and is taken not with force, but with words, meaning you must get thousands or millions of citizens to, if not like you on election day, at least like you better than the alternative. With so many voters and such fractured power, it's impossible to, as a dictator would, follow these rules and buy loyalty.
True. And also, you have to think about, to get elected, you have to appeal to some real dummies. Like, there are so many idiots in the world. A good portion of your vote is gonna be some from real fucking bottom-feeding scum. Like, just some idiots. You have to be able to take your elaborate point that has 30 different keynotes on it, and you have to put that down to a 10-second soundbite, or else you're never going to make it anywhere.
Or is it? Of course not. Don't think of citizens as individuals with their individual desires, but instead as divided into blocks. The elderly, or homeowners, or business owners, or the...
Fun fact, my tag was dictator, but I spelled it by drawing dick with a tater. What the fuck, Harmony? God damn it, I love you, dude.
poor. Blocks you can reward
Holy shit.
as a group. Democracies have wildly
Dude, by
complicated
the way,
tax
Harmony, I'll watch your stream. God, dude, I am like so not jealous of women. I like, holy shit, it is like there. So you get some good viewers and some really good fans. You really do. And then I will see somebody say the creepiest fucking thing that just makes me cringe out of my soul. Like, oh my god, it'd just be like, it literally hurts my stomach to see some of these. And it's not like they're saying things that are overtly, like, gross or weird. It just makes me feel uncomfortable. I find it funny as fuck. Hey, fair enough, you know, and maybe I would enjoy the attention, you know. I probably would, honestly. Like, if I was some big, chattily, sexy dude, I'd probably be on camera and just trying to get people to tell me how hot I am, to be honest, so.
tax codes and laws, not as accident, but as reward for the blocks that get and keep the ruling representatives in power. Farming subs.
But, you know, as long as if you think it's funny and you don't mind it, though, then it'll probably make me cringe less the next time I see it. It probably won't matter to me. As long as it doesn't matter to you. I'm not one of those people that wants to feel outrage or disgust or any of those other things for somebody else, you know? If somebody else doesn't feel that way, if they think it's fine, then it's fine. That's how I feel.
Subsidies, for example, have nothing to do with the food a nation needs, but entirely with how key the vote of the farming bloc is.
Yeah, I'm completely unfazed by 99% of things, to be honest. Yeah, me too. Me too. A lot of things that happen in my real life or to people I know doesn't affect me. The only things that really affect me emotionally are video games, funny enough.
Countries where farmers' votes don't swing elections don't have farming subsidies. If a bloc doesn't vote, such as younger citizens, then no need to divert rewards their way. Even if large in number, they are irrelevant to gaining power.
So this is the problem we're actually facing in, like, literally all of our Western countries right now, is that none of the young people want to vote because we're all just doomers and none of us really think it matters anymore. We've all been taught that it just doesn't matter and votes are bullshit. So the boomers are going in, the super old people who the only thing they care about is increasing their property value and nothing else, and performative values that don't affect them. So those are the people who are voting. nothing is even going to affect them in 10 years, so they don't have to think about the long-term effects. All they're thinking about is the short-term effects of what's happening. This is why all of the great leaders in history, and I say this with my whole ass, all of the great leaders in history were under 40 years old. Under 40. Some of the greatest leaders of all time died by the time they were like 32, like Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was dead by the time he was 32. Think about that too. In 1 year, in 1 year, I'll be the same age as Alexander the Great. What the fuck am I doing?
Which is good news for you. One less block to sway, and the
Well,
treasure
mostly
you
true.
give your key blocks has to come from
Yeah,
somewhere.
I mean, I'm sure that there's a few examples, of people who were all right. I can't think of one leader though that was truly great as an old dude. I could be missing it. I'm not a full history guy, so I could be missing some shit.
If you want long years in office, Rule 3 is your friend in a democracy just as
You know
much
what?
as a
Bismarck. Bismarck, he was great. He was an old dude, right? And then he died of like stomach cancer or something, and his son took over and was a big old dummy.
dictatorship. You can't eliminate those who don't vote for you, but there is still much you can do. Once in power, make it easier for your key blocks to vote and harder.
Live long enough to become the bad guy, or whatever the quote is. Yep, true. You either burn out or you fade away. That's what Nirvana's lead singer said.
For others, establish voting systems that reduce the number of blocks you need to win, the more rivals you get. Very handy indeed. Draw election borders to predetermine the results for you or your cronies, and have party pre-elections with Byzantine rules to determine who blocks even can vote for. Mix
I think that that's actually a really bad mistake, is to have the Byzantine style blocks. Once you have only property owners and rich people voting, what you end up with is a series of robber barons who then end up becoming lords with their serfs. I think that that's actually a lot of the stuff we're seeing now, at least in America, is that the way that the wealth gap is going, we are in a society right now where we are lords and serfs, and we just don't even realize it. Because a lot of us are out here literally living paycheck to paycheck. Like, if something bad happens, if your tire goes flat, you can't afford to get it fixed. Like, that's how bad it is for a lot of people right now. So, and you're working for the roof over your head and the food in your mouth, and that's about it. And you have a little bit of circuses to go with your bread.
and match the above for even better power perpetuation. When approval ratings couldn't be lower, yet re-election rates couldn't be higher, you'll know you've succeeded. Now, enough with thinking about the citizens. Even in a democracy, there still are very...
So, by the way, for those of you that don't know, in America, it may seem like a democracy, but we're actually not a democracy. We're a republic. And what that means is that the average citizen's vote actually is meaningless. We have the Electoral College. So, the Electoral College is like, you get so many people in each state that votes for the people. So the people send in their votes, and then the Electoral College people go, they look at the popular vote that's there, and they say whether or not they agree with it. The votes are suggestions, exactly. And it's kind of really, really stupid. At the same time, though, you can't... This is where I really feel it needs to go. And maybe I'm an asshole for this, but I think that the only way to actually better a democratic society, the only way to put in a roadblock, as it were, would be to have an intelligence test. Like, you have to be at least so smart, or at least not fucking stupid as hell, to be able to vote. I kind of get it, though. 50% of people are idiots. Yes, exactly. Think about how dumb the average person is, and then realize average is the halfway mark, That isn't me judging. I'm an idiot. It's me too. I feel that. I'm very much at the middle of the road, I don't feel like I'm really dumb, but I'm definitely not really smart. I know that. So, and that's what I fear more than anything, is the more I look around, the more I get older, the more I realize that the world is made of people. It's run by people who are just like me. People who have no idea what the hell's going on, and they're just kind of guessing and pretending like they know better. It's why I like the idea of technocracy. Let the smart people figure it out. Yes, exactly. There should, I mean, there should for sure be an intelligence test before you're allowed to vote. I really don't think that we should be letting all the stupid people vote. I think that that's a very big issue. And now that we have the tools to actually test people's intelligence, or at least moderately test it, I think that it's right there in front of us and we're just not doing it.
Very influential individual key supporter.
It's because everybody's worried about being called a villain. So many people in the world today would rather be called a good guy and make their own life worse than be called a villain while making everybody around them's life better. It's a real problem we have. The whole performative empathy of people where they like I said, they would rather be called a good guy. Ironically, I could vote in a technocracy, but I'd abstain my vote because understanding sound doesn't help run a country. Hey, you don't know that. What about sonic weapons, you know? Shit. We used that in Venezuela. We popped up on that bitch with a sonic gun. Did you ever hear about that? So the guys who were protecting him, they said that the army there said that they were all standing around, they knew the attack was going to come, and then all of a sudden, every light in the entire country shut down. And then all of a sudden, all of their friends started throwing up and bleeding from their ears and eyes and nose and mouth. And before they knew it, these military men were coming in shooting 50 rounds per second. And it was over in 30 minutes. Like, that's what makes me know, by the way, is that all of the wars that we actually have right now, like the Iran war, for example, or even going back to Iraq or Afghanistan, all of these wars are performative and could be over in a matter of days. But they want to power up the military-industrial complex, and that's why these wars take 10 years to solve instead of 10 minutes. We literally proved that we have the technology and capability to take out an entire country in 30 minutes. And yet, for some reason, every other war we get into, when it's not motivated by oil and money, is just, like, when it's not directly, outwardly motivated by it, takes forever, because it's actually motivated by the military-industrial complex. Brown note, France, my interest is peaked, hell yeah. Sonic weapons are wild. It'd take an insane amount of power, though. You need a good supply chain of electric cables or magnets. Yes, that is true. Unless you just go to a country and tap into their power source and suck it completely dry to use your sonic weapon like we do.
You need on your side, because their money or influence or favors keeps you in power. Well,
actually,
you can't
it's a double whammy, you know what I mean? Because you're taking their power away while also powering yourself up. They're like some kind of fucked up Naruto villain.
Just promise to give them treasure directly, as a dictator would. You can create loopholes for their investments, pass laws that they've written, or print get-out-of-jail-free cards for their actions. Not a wheelbarrow of gold to the door, but contracts for their business.
That's actually way more likely to get you a sustainable partnership. If you just hand someone money, you know, give a man a fish, feed a man or, you know, give a man a fish or teach a man to fish type shit. If you have him on the hook and it's like, hey, as long as you work with me, you have this lucrative business deal and you can keep getting richer and you can get away with whatever you want. Whereas the other guy's offering you $10 million today. Which one, if you're a smart businessman, you're obviously going to go with the first guy. Every time.
You, as a ruler, do have roads to build, or computers to maintain, or buildings to reconstruct.
They're just describing what America did in Iraq. Dude, you know what's crazy to me is that America is still, and I say this as a proud American who does love my country but hates its government. America is somehow still considered a superpower in the world, but we haven't won a war in like 70 years. We've lost every single war we've gone to in the past 70 years. How are we a superpower? We can't win. We lose every single time.
No man rules alone, after all. Or you could take the moral path and ignore the big keys, but you'll fight against those who didn't. Good luck with that. Corruption is not some kind of petty crime, but rather a tool of power in democracies and dictatorships. But more on that another time. So accept the favors, sway the key blocks, and you will get into power, ruling with actions that look
Technically won the Cold War, kind of. Yeah, but that wasn't even a real war. Honestly, and even then, if we would have won the Cold War, like, I don't know. I guess the USSR was dismantled, so technically we did win the Cold War, but just let them fall over. Yeah, that's really what we did. We just kind of left them alone and let them do their own thing while flexing on them. They were like, hey, we went to space, and then we were like, oh yeah, well, we went to the fucking moon. What now, boy?
Contradictory and stupid to those who don't understand the game. Privately helping a powerful industry you publicly denounced, or passing laws that hurt a bloc that voted for you. But your job isn't to have.
But then you look at the Cold War, and it's like anything that wasn't the space race, we objectively lost. Like, whenever our communist enemies armed Korea, we fucking lost that. I mean, technically, Korea's still at war. Vietnam, we lost the fuck out of that one. We lost that so hard, and that was our enemies pseudo fighting against us. Iraq, fucking Afghanistan. I mean, we lost against the Russians constantly. We did, and the Chinese, and we just never admitted it. We said instead that it was these other guys, and we just left them alone and decided we were done. But no, we fucking lost. We all lost in Vietnam. We didn't even get involved and somehow still lost. True. Well, you know, Vietnam is France's fault. And yeah, America went along with it, but geez, France really needed to chill. France did a lot of fucked up shit after World War II because they got so destroyed in World War II that nobody took them seriously, and they lost all of their colonies and everything. And they were the only Western power that was like trying to get their colonies back instead of giving them away. Which of course it was. Of fucking course it was. Goddamn France, dude. Vietnam is kind of like Afghan, you just don't fuck with them. Yeah, I mean, you're never gonna destroy a people that are willing to fight to the last man. You're just not gonna do that. And especially Vietnam is stupid because Ho Chi Minh was on our side. Ho Chi Minh loved America. He fucking loved us. And then France said that they wanted Vietnam back, so we went to war for them. And then he hated us. And it was like, it was so stupid. We could have had an actual valuable relationship with a good country. And instead we set ourselves back and them back by decades.
Have a consistent, understandable ruling.
Oh, so that some French people can have their fucking Vietnamese tea. You know, it's like, god damn.
Policy, but to balance the interests of your keys to power, big and small. That is how you stay in office. Now, with all this headache of being a representative, you may wonder, looking at Rule 3, why couldn't you skip all this block building, favor trading nonsense and just bribe the army to take power? We must finally turn to taxes and revolts.
Yeah, you can never bribe the army to take power. That is the classic Praetorian Guard mistake. Classic Praetorian Guard mistake. They will just keep going to the next guy who promises him more money. Keep going to the next guy who promises him more money. And killing you over and over and over again. They're ferociously independent, Vietnam. Yeah, it'd be like anyone invading America, just a bad idea, because even if you win, you'll have hillbillies taking pot shots at you from the hills for 200 years. Yes. There's an old Japanese quote where, from World War II, whenever they were asked why they didn't outright invade America, and the head general at the time said, because behind every blade of grass is a man with his gun. It's just the way it is.
You must understand Rule 2 and how the treasure is raised and used to hold a country together. If we graph the tax rate of countries versus the number of key supporters the ruler needs, there's a clear relationship. More democracy, lower taxes. If you're sitting comfortably in a cushy democracy, you may scoff at this, but your fellow citizens who don't earn enough don't pay income taxes and get rebates, bringing the average tax rate down. In dictatorship,
that's why Switzerland can be just left alone. Switzerland is the whole like icy area of Europe is weird to me because they're all like not involved with anything. They're all just like, yeah, no, we're going to do our own thing, and we're never going to do nothing else. And it's like, okay, dude, all right, you go over there, do your thing. Every hill is a fortress. True. Swiss banks are. I think that the biggest thing is the Swiss banks. Nobody wants to give up their Swiss bank account.
this doesn't happen.
Wait a minute.
The average tax rate down. In dictatorship,
Did this guy make this video with AI, or did he just really fuck up here? Because that stick man has 4 arms.
This doesn't happen. Dictatorships often forego tax paperwork in favor of just taking wealth directly. It's common for the dictator to force farmers to sell their produce to him for little, then turn around and sell it on the open market, pocketing the difference at an unthinkably high equivalent tax rate. So taxes in democracies are low in comparison to dictatorships. But why do representatives lower their take? Well, cutting taxes is a
Honestly, now that I think about it, though, I wish that more countries were like Switzerland, where it's just like they're just going to do their own thing. And it's like, you guys do your thing, we're going to do our thing. We're not going to get involved. Look, if you guys want to go do some crazy fucked up shit, that's on you. Just leave us alone. That's really, I think that's the perfect example of what a nation should do. Is just be like, guys, just leave us the hell alone. Like, you do your thing, we're going to do ours. We're not going to give you any of our money for free, and we're not going to expect any of your money for free. Let's just fucking do our own thing here. We got tax here for everything, but I heard UK is the king of taxes. America might beat UK, although I'm not sure. Because we've got a sales tax, we've got income tax, so every dollar we make is taxed. We've got property tax, so if you own property, that gets taxed every year. I mean, literally anything you can think of. We once had a window tax, and I'm not even joking. Yeah, no, that's funny because there's a whole thing in Warhammer Fantasy. That's how Gotrek and Felix met. Is because Felix was all pissed off at the Empire for their window tax. It was the window tax riots that he caused and got expelled and met Gotrek and all that. Yeah.
Pleasing. Dictators have no need to please the crowds and thus can take a large percentage from their poor citizens to pay key supporters. But representatives in a democracy can take a smaller percentage from each to pay.
Yeah, you could definitely tell that the guys who made Warhammer Fantasy had some beef that they wanted to air. It was personal for sure.
Their key supporters because their educated, freer citizens are more productive than peasants. For rulers in a democracy, the more productivity, the better, which is why they build universities and hospitals and roads and grant freedoms, not just out of the goodness of their hearts, but because it increases citizen productiveness, which increases...
Exactly. I don't agree with this either. You're right, Algrim. I think they want you to be just smart enough to obey, not smart enough to question. I really don't believe they want us to be smart at all. Like, literally, the guy who invented the modern education system, the two guys, Carnegie and that other dude, I can't remember his name, but they were massively wealthy, and they literally said outright that the point of the education system was not to educate people, but to create good workers. If you're smart, you're a threat to them. Exactly. Fun fact, biscuits are taxed, but cakes aren't. So legally speaking, we have cakes with our tea, not biscuits. But then you go to France, and it's the other way around, right? Because they have the cake tax, or the sugar tax, or whatever. So they actually, specifically put, no sugar in their bread and stuff. It's how we get around the tax. It's amazing. I love that.
Treasure for the ruler and their key support.
Hey, dude, you come to America, your bread is going to be sweet. Your bread's going to be so sweet. Oh, man, it's going to be good.
Orders, even when a lower percentage is taken.
I've also, I pause every 5 seconds. I used to work at a gas station, and back in the day, these English people came in, they were on vacation, and they walked up to the soda machine, and we're looking at the cups of the sizes of soda that they could get, and we're laughing so hard and taking pictures to send back to their family and stuff, because they saw our 64-ounce soda that you could get for $1.29. And they were just like, what the fuck is this? They were all having a great time. I didn't realize until that moment that you guys don't have giant drinks. Random fun fact, we can legally own fully functioning takes. Honestly, I think that is what the Founding Fathers intended. People want to say that the Founding Fathers didn't know that the technology for weaponry would be as strong as it is today, and that's why they didn't specifically write anything about automatic weapons, and that's literally not true, because automatic weaponry had been around since the 1700s. Since guns had been invented, at least the concept for a automatic weapon existed. It wasn't technically feasible at the time, and most of the guns were not very, very good, as an automatic weapon, but automatic weapons were in the brains of people back then. So anybody who says that they didn't think about that just doesn't know history. We have to block up the guns to sell them to America, but our guns all work here. But you could go with it with a McDonald's drive. Hell yeah, hell yeah. Our rules are basically use your common sense. That's how it should be for real. That is how it should be. I don't know. I think that a lot of nations get caught up in just trying to feel good for themselves instead of trying to be good to themselves.
Democracies are better places to live than dictatorships, not because representatives are better people, but because their needs happen to be aligned with a large portion of the population. The things that make citizens more productive also make their lives better.
No. I don't agree with what he's saying here. I don't agree with what he's saying here at all. Most representatives will go and they'll take a quick paycheck from a politician or from a lobby guy or whatever, corporation, so that they can fuck over all of their fellow countrymen while pocketing some change in the progress, making themselves richer. I don't think that this guy's telling the truth here. If you run into a car, you're probably going to prison, but you can risk it if you want. Yeah, so how about taxes? And we've got to pay our taxes on your tank. Of course, you got to pay the property tax, the sales tax, the emissions tax, the tax, the thinking about paying the tax. There's all these taxes you got to pay. Oh, people that come outside of country here have more benefits than the person that was born here. That is a big issue in a lot of Western nations, too. And I know a lot of people don't want to talk about it because it's kind of a touchy subject, but I do see it a lot where I live, where, for example, if you come in from a country and you are a refugee, you're given money to start a business. You're literally handed money specifically to start a business and all of that stuff, which is all fine and good. The issue comes whenever no American is offered the same thing. You can't go to a bank and get a 0 interest loan as an American to start a business for $100,000. But if you're a refugee or an immigrant or anything like that, you can. That's where the real problem comes in. It's not that we have immigration or anything like that. The issue is that it's one-sided and that we are basically selling out our own country to make people feel good about themselves. Because like I said, that's what the real problem is. People just want to feel good about themselves. The tax that you don't play in the first 12 hours, it's really weird. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's a weird, touchy subject, and you get the wrong shit said a lot of the time. But the real issue is not multiculturalism. The real issue is not this or that, for the most part. The real issue comes with the one-sided nature of it. That's really the only problem with it. Because if you give people the same rules, then they will act the same way. The argument for that, though, is they have to spend the money in American business to set up that company, but people find loopholes in the counter argument. Yeah, no, I get that. My thing is, if these programs were offered to the average American citizen, I wouldn't have a problem with them at all. My issue is that they're not. That the average American citizen is struggling to live while the average immigrant American is living good. Is getting $2,000 a month for free, getting their housing paid for, getting free food, and getting a business loan. You see a lot of like gas stations here that are run by people from the Middle East or people from India, and it's not because they're so much better at running gas stations. It's because the government literally just handed them a lump sum of money to start the business. It's weird. It's weird. I don't know. I agree. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Fair enough. You gotta have it.
Representatives want everyone productive, so everyone gets highways. The worst dictators are those whose incentives are aligned with the fewest citizens, those who have the fewest.
Yeah, my belief is always take care of your citizens first. Once your citizens are fully taken care of, then you can worry about the rest of the world. This is the issue, is that the Western world, America, Britain, all these other places, we decided that we had hit that point. And we were in the 1950s. Everyone was taken care of in our nations. The issue is, whenever that happened, we opened up the doors so wide that it caused everybody else to get fucked, you know? Wait, what dictator care for other ideas? Yeah, no, none of them, none of them.
keys to power. This explains why the worst dictatorships have something in common: gold or oil or diamonds or similar. If the wealth of a nation is mostly dug out of the ground, it's a terrible place to live because a gold mine can run with dying slaves and still produce great treasure. Oil is harder, but luckily foreign companies can extract and refine it without any citizen involvement. With citizens outside this cycle, they can be ignored while the ruler is rewarded and the keys to power kept loyal. Thus, we live in a world where the best, smartest democracies are stable, the worst, richest dictatorships are stable, and in between is a valley of revolution. The resource-rich dictators build roads only from their ports to their resources and from their palace to the airport, and the people stay quiet not because this is fine or even because they're scared, but because the cold truth is starving, disconnected illiterates don't make good revolutionaries.
Which is exactly what they're doing to us in America, really. They're making us starving illiterates. Do you know how bad it is in the American education system right now? Kids can't read. Kids in the 5th grade are unable to read. There was a high school, an actual high school, so that's 9th grade through 12th grade, that had a 72% illiteracy rate and had an 85% failure on basic math exams. That was last year.
Now, a middling
I have a theory on that. Oh, I have a few of them.
dictator without resources must, as mentioned before, take a large amount of wealth directly from his poor farmers and factory workers. Thus, 2 roads won't do, and so he must maintain some minimums of life for the citizens. But keeping the workforce somewhat connected and somewhat educated and somewhat healthy makes them more able to revolt. Now understand, the romantic image of the people storming the gates and overthrowing their dictator is mostly a fantasy. If you run a middling dictatorship, the people
No matter where you go, it's an individual thing to learn stuff you care to learn. You care, you learn. If you care, you learn. Yeah, that's true. That is true. As long as you have access to the knowledge. So, for example, like in a country like China or Iran, a lot of their internet is cordoned off to where they actually are only given information from their area, which does in a way make you unable to grow past where your culture is sitting now, you know? Sure, it helps to have a great teacher. Oh yeah, but as long as you, not even like the teachers necessarily, but just for me, it's like if you have, and that does help, but if you just have the access to the knowledge, which that's what the internet is a great thing for, and the longer the internet exists, the harder it will be for governments to prevent people from using it the way it was meant to be used, I think.
only storm the palace when the army lets them to remove you because you lost control over your keys and are being replaced. This is why, after popular revolts in middling dictatorships, the new ruler is often the same as the old, if not worse. The people didn't replace the king, the court replaced the king, using the people's protest they let happen to do it. The very things a benevolent dictator wants to build to cross this valley take treasure away from the keys to power and make the citizens more able to revolt, often ending in a stronger ruler, less likely to build bridges and more loyal to his keys. On the other side, the best democracies are stable, not just because the large number of keys and their competing desires makes dictatorial revolt near impossible to organize, but also because the revolt would destroy the very wealth it intended to capture, the high productivity of the citizens. Plus, those helping the would-be dictator in a democracy know he plans to cull key supporters once in power. That's what a coup is.
Yeah.
So potential key supporters must weigh the probability of surviving the cull and getting the rewards versus the risk of being on the outside of a dictatorship they helped create. In a stable democracy,
Yep, the issue is that everybody thinks they're going to be the guy on top and nobody thinks they're going to be the guy on bottom. Everybody who is poor convinces themselves that they are just the temporarily embarrassed rich, that one day they will get theirs.
democracy, that's a terrible gamble. Maybe you'll be incredibly wealthy, but probably you'll be dead and have made the lives of everyone you know worse. The math says no. Being on the right side of a coup in a dictatorship means having the resources to get you and your family what the peasants
doing the
lack:
same shit,
healthcare,
yeah.
education,
Yeah, exactly.
quality of life. This is what makes the competition for power so fierce. But in a democracy, most already have these things, so why risk it? So the more the wealth of a nation comes from the productive citizens of the nation, the more the power gets spread out, and the more the ruler must maintain the quality of life for those citizens. The less, the less. Now, if a stable democracy becomes very poor, or if a resource that dwarfs the productivity of the citizens is found, the odds of this gamble change and make it more possible for a small group to seize power. Because if the current quality of life is terrible, or the wealth not dependent on the citizens, coups are worth the risk. When democracies fall, these are usually the reasons.
Fair.
These rules for rulers explain not only why some men are monsters and others are merciful.
Honestly, I think the reason most democracies actually fall, though, is because the people who are in charge of the democracy they eventually lose sight of what it was meant to be. I think that America right now is on a very downward path, and if we don't turn ourselves around, we are going to lose, we're going to lose everything. George Washington warned, whenever he left his presidency, our first president warned that to become involved in foreign nations, that will be the death of America. And I do fully agree with that. To become financially intertwined, militarily intertwined, I understand the reason we did it, but I don't think that it is a very strong idea. God goes, what up?
But everything about politics, from war to foreign aid to political dynasties to corruption, all of which we can talk about at another time. But for now, you aspiring ruler may be disgusted by the world of politics and have decided to avoid it.
This near the end of the video, but it's You Would Be a Terrible Leader by CGP Grey.
Entirely.
And, I'd say he's probably 80% right, except for the fact that he said you would be a terrible leader, which means he's talking to me. And of course, I would be the best despot in the world. Everybody knows this.
But you cannot, for rulers come in many forms. Yes,
Look, who do you go to for knowledge? You go to a book.
kings, presidents, and prime ministers, but also deans, dons, mayors, chairs, chiefs. These rules apply to all and explain their actions, from the CEO of the largest global corporate conglomerate who must keep his board happy to the chair of the smallest homeowners association, managing votes and spending membership fees. You cannot escape structures of power. You can only turn a blind eye
The Human Aid book, I see. Yeah, exactly.
to understand
Only barely.
them. And if you ever want the change you dream about, there's a zeroth rule you cannot ignore. Without power, you can affect nothing. You may not like these rules,
Yes, that is
but surely better
that's like saying without water you can't be wet, though. I mean, it's a pretty obvious statement.
you on the throne than someone else. And who knows? Maybe you'll be different.
Everybody knows it. I'll be different. I'm the greatest ever. No, I'm kidding. Oh, yeah, that was a really good video. I don't know. I like that.